I'm Dr. Jett, and I've had a passion for public health for over 30 years. Now I'm in a position to effect change, and these are the critical conversations about health and our community, with people who can help me make those changes. Good morning. Welcome to CEO Live Talks. I'm your host, Dr. Jett, CEO for Park DuValle, and with me today I have Ms. Lopez. So welcome to the show today. Let me give you a pile.
Thank you, Dr. Jett.
You're looking very lovely today.
Thank you again, Dr. Jett.
So I want to start first just by, introduce you to the world, and tell us a little bit about your job and what you're doing today.
Okay. I'm again, Danica Lopez. I'm the Assistant Director for Apprenticeships at the University of Louisville. My job is focused on targeting our subpopulations, underrepresented minorities, women, and service-connected individuals, so veterans and their families, to build opportunities, apprenticeship opportunities for those individuals. So transitioning from military service, women in STEM, underrepresented minorities in healthcare, helping to build those direct representation roles over in healthcare, because we found out that when folks look like you as a patient, when the people treating you look like you tend to have a better outcome medically. So I focus on those areas a lot when I'm building opportunities, work-based learning opportunities.
So why this particular role? I mean, what gives you that passion? Because, I have seen you a few times just talk about, the importance of apprenticeships, particularly in the West End.
Mm-hmm.
But explain to us why, 'cause you have a very unique passion.
In 2014, I started working with local activists here in Louisville. After Tamir Rice, after Michael Brown. So we started organizing and protesting and doing a lot of things that we thought would help our community here in Louisville. We wrote petitions to get the police to wear body cams in Louisville and help stop the mayor from diverting those funds to cameras in Waterfront Park. So we did those sorts of things. I did a lot of that for years, and at a certain point I thought, okay, tearing down, dismantling systemic systems of oppression is very needed, but at the same time, who's going to be building these things back up once it's torn down? Like who's situated in a space that builds these other systems, these substitute systems? So we're tearing down one system. What's the system that we're going to replace it with? So my passion comes from, we got a lot of people, younger people they're very focused. They are very passion driven of tearing down those systems. But I now want to move into building up. So I moved into finding roles that allowed me the autonomy to build other systems, particularly University of Louisville. I moved into this role and they were like, hey, let's build apprenticeships and let's do it for these subpopulations. And I thought, okay, what can I do to help leverage the university's power to go and build these systems for folks in my community? So I grew up Victory Park, West End of Louisville, and I thought, like, what can I do? Now that I'm in this role, now that I know what I'm doing, how can I build these pathways and help individuals either get credentials to help them sustain their family, or pathways that lead to higher education, but doing so while looking at those barriers that I'm familiar with having to navigate.
Because oftentimes we discuss the issues in the community, but we don't provide solutions.
Right.
And there's nobody advocating for us on the inside of these systems.
Right.
Talk a little bit about your upbringing.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, because before we get to protest,
right,
there has to be something, a reference frame for that.
It does. Very family-oriented, family-centered. Our family was big, so when we were raised, all of the kids knew one phone number. We all learned one phone number immediately, and it was our great-grandmother's house
Okay.
over on 23rd and Date Street. If you didn't know any other phone number, you knew her phone number, and you knew if you called, somebody was going to be there to answer. If you needed a ride, you may not know who's going to pick you up, but you will be picked up. It was like the family switchboard. So it was that community right there, knowing I don't have to worry about anything as long as I know this phone number.
You know the phone number now?
I do, 502-774-1809. We just talked about this in our family the other day. So, yes, I will remember that phone number forever.
All right. So what schools you go to here?
Oh, goodness. Elementary, I went to a lot of schools. Middle school, I went to Western Middle, and I graduated from Shawnee High School.
Okay. So tell me about going to Shawnee High School.
Shawnee was different. We always had a bad reputation. We were not known for anything good. However, my experience at Shawnee is probably the reason why I am where I am now, is because going to that school, having that reputation, not having folks see you as being the most likely to be successful coming out of Shawnee, probably gave me a different drive to be successful and prove individuals wrong. So you kind of have that, oh, they told me I won't amount to anything. Don't worry about it. I'll show them something different. And went out and tried to do that.
So I sort of can relate to that. Going to Paul Robeson High School, it was ranked one of the lowest schools in the city when I went there. And we didn't have the books that was necessary. We had great teachers, I would say that. Excellent football team. Of course, I'm going to say that 'cause I played. Great track team. But it was just centered in Inglewood, which at that time, gangs and drugs started to come through. Did you have that experience at Shawnee?
Of course. It was, honestly, we joked a lot that Shawnee was basically just the streets with walls. So
Yeah.
you could go in Shawnee, you could see a drug deal happening. You may know somebody's in there with a pistol at the day. You may be walking to your class, and all of a sudden you're moving out of the way because the K-9 unit is there to sniff lockers. There wasn't anything going on in Shawnee that you couldn't also find in the streets, and vice versa. So
Right.
yes, I can relate to a lot of it. I did do some sports while I was there, so that may have also
What
kept
sports
me.
did you do?
I ran track.
Okay.
I think I ran track, played volleyball and basketball while I was there, but track was my bread and butter.
And what race did you run? I got to ask.
Actually, I was long jump and triple jump.
Okay.
I did do relays if we needed an extra person to run relays just to get us some points, but I was a long jump, triple jumper.
So you had hops.
A little bit. I had a little hang time.
So growing up in the West End, and just fast forward, has much changed over the years?
I think so. A lot of the supports that I could find when I was living in the West End when I was younger, not there anymore. So a lot of the programming that they had for kids, not there anymore, not funded anymore. A lot of it was city funded, not funded anymore. I can't just take my kids to a summer program the way my mother used to take me to a summer program. Right. And so, yes, in that way, the resources that were available when I was younger, I don't see those anymore. And I work in a position to be able to see those, and I don't see those anymore.
The interesting thing when we think about opportunities for our youth, I always praise Marion Barry for all the things he did in D.C. area. And some of those programs are still there. What's missing in Louisville? I mean, why are we lacking the program? Is this something that we need to make a specific ask of the mayor?
I think the empathy is lacking. I think a city that's so focused on economic revenue and bringing in revenue, but not necessarily focused on providing resources to the youth and making sure that those individuals can contribute to that economic growth or that revenue stream, I think it's a bad precedent. I think once a city is attempting to be known for something and trying to put their face on the map for something and trying to make a different type of name for themselves, they tend to go for those things of Derby City. You know, we're known for horse races. Well, that's our bread and butter. So let's figure out how we can promote that more. That means diverting funds from certain areas that need those funds, which is those programs, the programs for the youth, programs for single mothers, for example. My mom went through a program years ago that prepared her for a career. It was a career preparation program. They also made sure that she had clothing and attire necessary to go into interviews. They gave her, I think they gave her maybe a laptop or a computer or something at the end of the program. I don't see those programs anymore, not in the way that they were available back then.
This episode of CEO Live Talks is brought to you by Park National Bank. Pay with confidence. Your Park debit card is the fast, safe, smart way to pay this holiday season. Get more details online at parknationalbank.com.
If you or someone you love is considering therapy, contact the professionals at Park DuValle Community Health Centers today.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
Communities in our name.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
You're always on time.
Because we serve the community.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
Park DuValle Community Health Center, providing quality health care, one person, one family, one neighborhood at a time.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here for them.
Park DuValle Community Health is right here for your children's primary care. At Park DuValle Community Health Center, our team of highly dedicated pediatric physicians administers state-of-the-art care right here, every day. Because serving the community is more than part of our name, it's our mission. Park DuValle Community Health Center, providing quality health care, one person, one family, one neighborhood at a time.
At Park DuValle, we offer a variety of services for behavioral health needs, such as therapy, medication management, case management, and we also have community health workers. Here at Park DuValle Community Health Center, in our behavioral health department, we provide you with the tools to help improve your life and your mental health. If you or someone you know is experiencing thoughts of suicide, please don't hesitate to give the Suicide Prevention Hotline a call. This could save your life or someone else's life.
So, you know, if you fast forward, if you don't provide people opportunity and they don't see a way out of circumstances, then they turn to the vices of the streets.
Right, competition for resources. And at times that competition can be, violent. You put individuals, you pack so many people into a small area and you don't give them the resources to figure their way out or to help them get out or to do something to get out of that area, and you forget about it. You try to put it out of everyone's sight when they're coming in town for Derby, then you're going to run into these same problems. You're not providing individuals with the resources necessary to see a pathway out of it.
And we're not investing in people.
Right.
There is a state recently just passed a law, and it only applied to state employees or hiring of state employees. They have removed all of the degree requirements. Now to me, when I saw that, I said, that's interesting. Now, if you remove the degree requirements, are we putting the resources into the people to become educated and trained on that particular job?
Right.
Because nowadays, if you look, how does somebody get to be Ms. Lopez, soon to be Dr. Lopez one day? How does somebody get to be a Dr. Jett? What can I do to explain to somebody that's selling drugs on the street how to pave a different way and why? And one of the things I look at in Louisville, and you from Louisville, and by the way, how did you get a chance to go to Shawnee when they were busing people all around the city?
I lived in the West. I lived in walking distance at the time, and then when we moved again, I just continued to go to Shawnee.
Okay, because a lot of times they were people live right across the street and they will bust
Well,
all the way to Fern Creek.
Shawnee was a little different. So when I entered Shawnee, there were only 70 in my class to start off. Like there were 70 individuals on orientation for freshman orientation, and the counselor got up there and she was like, "Look to your left, now look to your right. Those people probably won't be there when you graduate." She wasn't lying.
Wow. You know how many was in my class?
Mm-hmm.
700.
You see? Exactly.
And somebody said the same thing to me. Look left to right. 226 of us graduated.
Exactly.
I don't know where the people went, but that's a travesty of the system, right? So the West End don't have the resources to help people in programming. Has the environment changed?
I can't necessarily say the environment has changed because the people in the West End are some of the most friendliest people that I've ever met. So I can still walk by and say hi to people and not worry about it. Or, you know, going over to my mom's house, they know everybody around the block. So, I can't say the environment has changed, but I can say that the competition for resources in the West End has increased because, again, lack of resources creates, additional competition. Things are people are more desperate to get those resources and more willing to take, extreme measures in order to beat out the competition. So in that way, yes. But as far as the people in the West End, I don't believe
the
that
people in the West End haven't changed. That's good. What about how the community looks?
Yes. And so when you go to the West End and you're looking around all of those vacant houses, I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, we got all of these people sleeping under viaducts, sleeping over in parks, sleeping on the sides of expressways, but we've got all of these vacant homes that the city should figure out how to fix an ordinance so that they can acquire those properties, rehab those properties, and place these unhoused individuals into them. But I don't know what the mindset is of the city, but that should be the mindset.
That's a novel idea. And if you provide somebody with a home, then you can provide wraparound social services for them. And so I've had the opportunity to watch Louisville sort of go backwards. And when I say that is the people are starving for something. They're starving for change.
Right.
Recently, it was just unveiled that they were going to start rehabbing the parks, right? I used to love going to Shawnee Park, but now it's become more unsafe.
Right.
So I don't go to Shawnee Park. I can't prescribe to people to exercise in an unsafe community.
Right.
So what do we need to do about crime, in your opinion?
That's a difficult conversation because where is it stemming from? So again, we go back to that competition for resources. People have to have the ability to get themselves or be again, wraparound services, enough wraparound services available to help individuals out of that competition for resources. So again, it's a difficult conversation, and a lot of that conversation can look different for many people.
Right.
I think it's a holistic approach, honestly, is needed. Individual holistic approach to crime prevention, crime deterring individuals from committing crimes. But that is a lot more, it's a bigger ask than I think other individuals who are in the power to create those things, so those systems to provide those services, are willing to have at this moment.
The depression part, I would get up only because I knew I had to. I'm always having to do stuff for other people, and I can't, who's helping me? Therapy has improved my life by 95%. Every parent, every child, just everyone, just in general, needs some type of therapy, and they should seek it if they feel the need. When I'm approached or have something happen to me, I feel the emotions for everything, but then I have to set it free because it'll do something to me. So I just, like I said, I feel it. Not for long, and then I set it free. That's how I've been able to cope. with my situations, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. But yeah, once I couldn't take it anymore, and I reached out for help, and I got it.
If you or someone you love is considering therapy, contact the professionals at Park DuValle Community Health Centers today.
This episode of CEO Live Talks is brought to you by Park National Bank. Pay with confidence. Your Park debit card is the fast, safe, smart way to pay this holiday season. Get more details online at parknationalbank.com.
If you or someone you love is considering therapy, contact the professionals at Park DuValle Community Health Centers today.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
Communities in our name.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
You're always on time.
Because we serve the community.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
Park DuValle Community Health Center, providing quality health care, one person, one family, one neighborhood at a time.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here for them.
Park DuValle Community Health is right here for your children's primary care. At Park DuValle Community Health Center, our team of highly dedicated pediatric physicians administers state-of-the-art care right here, every day. Because serving the community is more than part of our name, it's our mission. Park DuValle Community Health Center, providing quality health care, one person, one family, one neighborhood at a time.
But the systems that are in place now created the greatest criminals on earth, right? Capitalism, racism, actually the systems created the lack of resources and competition for those resources, and the lack of investment into the African community. To me, that spurred the transition of now people still have the mindset, predominantly white cops in black neighborhoods because they're not from the neighborhood, and the lack of training, which actually spurred the whole, well, I would say before Breonna Taylor, but just decades of racism be applied in black neighborhoods and how we are, I wouldn't say protected, but more brutalized.
Right. I think that's a cultural issue within policing and law enforcement itself. It's a culture. Law enforcement culture is, while they say protect and serve, that's just something that's on the side of the cars.
Right.
That protect part, I don't believe it's there. It's more show up after the thing has been done and then go from there. That's not protection when you show up after the thing has been done. Again, I would the resources.
Yeah. How did you feel? And I know you was part of the protesting, and you were, in the midst of making change. Similar to I was dealing with the aftermath of Trayvon Martin down in Sanford, Florida, and being a health commissioner there, trying to keep people safe, and trying to talk about health inequities and social determinants of health, which actually nobody had ever addressed in Sanford, Florida. But tell me about your perspective, your role, and the change that you wanted to see.
I think, so I was a part of a group that we all kind of came together naturally on social media. We were all mad. Everybody was angry. And we were all loosely affiliated through mutual friends or through social media, but we hadn't met before. And I think one or two of us was, hey, let's meet up and let's, really talk about this. We're angry, so we're looking for a community through social media. But then we took that community from social media and made it our local community. So it ended up being about 9 of us I want to say, that we got together. We worked with Reverend Vincent James. We worked with Dr. Bruce Williams, Reverend Dr. Bruce Williams. At the time, I think there was an Anthony Smith that worked for the mayor's office, for Greg Fisher's office, and Sadiqa Reynolds was involved, and we ended up meeting with Mayor Fisher to kind of have these discussions, along with Chief Steve Conrad at the time, and we kind of were able to go and have these conversations. Now, we didn't know if anything was going to come of it. We didn't even think like we were going to be the change makers, but we wanted to make sure that whatever we had to say at the time was heard. And fortunately enough, we were able to have some of those conversations, and we did have a couple of goals that we were able to hit. Now, did those goals actually help create change that was that made it any easier for individuals, for Black people in Louisville when stopped by police? Not really, because as we've seen, body camera footage doesn't really, even when the body camera footage is out, it doesn't really change the perspective to, oh wow, they overstepped their boundaries. It doesn't always work that way. But we were able to get those body cameras on LMPD. I was part of the group that we had multiple protests.
What was the name of the group?
Louisville to Ferguson.
Okay.
A lot of other individuals in our group traveled to Ferguson during those protests. They went down to Florida. They were our friends they were everywhere. So very involved. We had Reverend Al Herring, who was it was like our dad of the group. So when we needed some advice on how to do this, who's a revolutionary person that we should look to for guidance. We all recited, Asada's Break Our Chains. We did that for our meeting. So we were really invested in changing, helping to change the culture around here, specifically the culture of policing. Now, it didn't happen, of course,
Right.
but I think at a certain point, it was like, okay, we've done a lot of this. We made a few changes, but it's now time to let some other folks come in and do some of that stuff.
So when you protesting, and I've been a sheriff protests before, and were you ever in fear?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So the night we had our largest protest was downtown. We didn't know at the time, but LMPD was staged about 4 or 5 blocks away, staged in the big SWAT vehicles, and they had on all of their gear, and we didn't know it until we were walking towards the Yum Center. So it ended up being a really large group that split into 2 large groups.
I saw that.
And then converged right by the bridge. And as we were walking, like passing the LG&E headquarters, they were just standing there fully, ready to rumble. And I'm like, what is this? Like, we've been peaceful this whole time. Halfway through the march, though, we realized that the helicopters were circling. So yes, we had some fear. When we went and protested in Middletown, we definitely had a lot of fear from the cops out, protesting in that area. We've had our fair share. Actually, one of my friends was actually somebody in the FOP, was looking up his credentials and things like that. He was able to search himself and see the types of individuals or where people were looking him up, and FOP was looking him up.
Okay. The interesting thing about the protest, a lot of people was trying to say the protests were destructive. I did notice when I was in Boston, there were some outside agitators. I marched in a protest that came to Brookline, Massachusetts. So did you ever notice any outside agitators?
Right, we did, and we had a system set up. So on the same protest, we ended up at 4th Street Live. There was a gentleman back there who was an agitator who we quickly realized did not belong in our space, and that he was attempting to agitate and turn things into a negative light. So what our system was myself and 3 other individuals, we were tasked with going to stand and surround that individual to keep them from interacting with the individuals in our protest who were there to do what we came to do. So what we did was we made sure that even if he was yelling obscenities, even if he was trying to engage the protesters to get them to join in with him to direct anger or maybe cause chaos with the mounted police officers, we made sure that our protesters did not engage with them. So we kind of had a system set up.
What about the people that use the opportunity to loot?
So,
because I know that's a difficult system to stop.
So again, our protests that we set up were probably 2014 to 2016. So we really didn't have the same type of anger that was present with the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor protests. And that was because back when we were doing, we didn't have that type of support. We didn't have, we were in the early stages of, we're going to get out there, and everybody thought it was just an inconvenience. So then when George Floyd and Breonna Taylor protests began to happen, it was more, there were more individuals who were tuned in to protest, what the protests were, and supportive of it. So my experience as an organizer was a little different between 2014 and 2016 than what happened in 2020 and forward.
Where do you see us going from here? I mean, you've been in the trenches. You know, I've been in the trenches, and a lot of people, you're making change now externally from the system to bring change internally. Where do we go from here? What do you want to see the West End?
One, again, the resources. What I don't want to see is individuals come in and bring a system for West End residents to get accustomed to, used on, rely on, and then all of a sudden funds dry up and that system or that resource is no longer there. So sustainable resources for individuals in the West End, particularly working with organizations who are already established. So not coming in to be the savior, thinking you have the answer for everything that's going on without talking to the people in the community to find out exactly what it is they need. That those are going to be the key to figuring out how to establish those systems within the West End so that people can self-realize, self-actualize.
I tell you what I want. I want safe community. I want all the parks redone. I want all the roads repaved. I want affordable housing.
Yes.
Right? I need the landscape to change. I need more trees to reduce heat islands and air pollution. I need somebody to deal with the air pollution.
Right.
In Rubbertown and on parts of the West End. I need a study to occur.
Yes.
I need some grocery stores.
Absolutely, food desert.
Because we're in the food desert, and I'm tired of going to only one Kroger. Right? So that has to change.
That's another problem. During those protests, when Breonna Taylor and George Floyd thing happened, we had that one grocery store in the West End that ended up closing. So, you know, our elders and other individuals who rely on that store for their pharmacy needs and their medications couldn't get it because Kroger just closed. So that's a problem.
We right across from Park DuValle, we had a grocery store that attempted to be a grocery store. I wouldn't even call it a grocery store. It had dilapidated food, old crud. It didn't even have a working refrigerator, freezer.
As soon as you walk in there, you can smell that.
You can smell it. So we need some economic capital into the West End. Instead of us treating the symptoms, which that's all we're treating is, we're treating obesity, diabetes. We're treating poor health outcomes. We're not putting the systems in place for people to live healthy. Breathe healthy. So I'm talking about a total reconfiguration of the West End. I need the black-on-black crime to stop. I need us to go, because it's not in our nature, even from Africa, to kill one another like that. So I need that to stop. I need the police brutality against black people to stop. Which brings me to the incident that occurred in Memphis recently. And to me, it's almost, I don't even know how to put it in context as to why the black officers now would kill a black man.
Again, when we talked about it a little earlier, and I mentioned the culture of law enforcement. we all know, well, most of us know where law enforcement started. When you see that starred badge, the slave patrols, and how that morphed into what's now known today as law enforcement around the United States. And that culture is still there. Black cops are not, they are not able to go into that culture and say, hey, we're not going to fully invest ourselves into the culture. They may go in with good intentions, and once they get there, that culture then takes over. So while they are Black police officers, they're still working in a system that upholds those oppressive and systemically racist ideologies that were there from the founding of law enforcement. Right. So I don't think that skin color has anything to do with whether or not they are working to uphold the oppressiveness of police culture. It is just, that's what's going to happen. It would have to be a completely separate system of responsiveness to crimes, to mental health problems that would have to occur aside from law enforcement in order to actually deplatform that culture. So
what you just described to me, I can't help but to reflect back on part of a clip from Django when Samuel Jackson talked as if he was the oppressor,
right,
in nature. And unfortunately, I think by witnessing violence, police officers are desensitized to the value of life as well.
Yes.
But there lies another issue in the fact that we're not hiring police officers from the community that are invested in the community and know the community,
right,
and do true community policing. I have a friend, Chief Cecil Smith, down in Sanford, Florida. When he became the police chief, he understood the dynamic of we need to police the community and be involved.
Right.
Be a friend of the community instead of an antagonist to the community.
Right.
And I think that would have a different connotation.
We did have those discussions before with Chief Steve Conrad and the mayor of remembering back when, heard my grandmother, like, everybody knew that there was a police officer in this area named Hiawatha, and if Hiawatha was coming to get you, they know they could tell Hiawatha, like, hey, somebody's bothering me. Hiawatha's going to go and handle whatever the situation is. But Hiawatha was known in the community. Or having those police officers that literally used to walk the beat. These cops don't even get out of their cars.
Right.
If they do, it's for a photo op. It's okay, let me shoot the ball 2 times with these kids, and hopefully somebody gets that on camera and they send that in and they play that clip on the news. Or, oh, these kids are out playing football in the street. Let's try to. I don't like propaganda.
Right,
so if we're gonna do this thing, you need to be fully invested. Exactly. So it's not just we see kids playing in the street, so let's shoot a basketball. It's you saw an elderly lady walking with groceries. Did you help her take them in the house? Because no, they're not going to get out of their cars to do that. Again, it's not in the culture of policing. It used to be, because at the time, if you think about it, Black cops used to police Black areas. White cops used to police white areas, and that was kind of how it went. But those cops were from those neighborhoods. Once they started allowing more officers of the color, of different ethnicities and races to go into these other areas and be more exposed, somehow that law enforcement culture, the oppressive systematic, the oppressive culture of policing took over as the majority culture. That's what it morphed into.
This episode of CEO Live Talks is brought to you by Park National Bank. Pay with confidence. Your Park debit card is the fast, safe, smart way to pay this holiday season. Get more details online at parknationalbank.com.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
Communities in our name.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
You're always on time.
Because we serve the community.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
Park DuValle Community Health Center, providing quality health care, one person, one family, one neighborhood at a time.
Maybe they're scared.
True, but if you're scared, you shouldn't be in that uniform.
And now you have a badge and you have power.
You were scared before you got that
Right.
that badge and that
Right.
power.
Right. And now you're in a neighborhood that you're unfamiliar with.
Mhm.
And now you bring your biases to the job.
Right.
So, rest in peace to Mr. Nichols.
Right.
We really do have to change the culture of policing in all communities. And, you know, I remember years ago, I used to come from Fern Creek to the West End to coach, and I got stopped frequently. And so those days need to cease.
Right.
But let's move along to another subject of mine because, you know, I'm a fan of the school system.
Okay.
And, you know, in society, we have a lot of biases. So I love your hair,
Oh, thank you.
right? So talk to me about the transition in working in the corporate world and the changing of the hair and how people perceive that, because there's a lot of stigmatism around that
Right.
today too.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm very outspoken. So when I transitioned from straight relaxed hair to wearing my natural afro more because I had a lot of hair and my afro was out there. So and that was like my favorite thing to do is wear my hair all the way out.
Right.
And
You was looking for that revolutionary Angela Davis type.
Angela Davis, yes. I had the big hair, honey. So that was absolutely what I wanted to do. I'm like, okay, so we're doing this now. And of course, when I worked in corporate America, it was like, you're wearing your hair out like that. Like, even my mom would be like, you gonna wear your hair? Absolutely. It grows out of my head this way, so I'm gonna wear it this way.
Anybody say anything crazy?
No, but you have individuals who take it upon themselves to get handsy. They want to touch your hair.
They want to touch your hair.
Yeah, and
What is up with that?
now, lady, if I smack your hand, you're going to be upset with me.
Right.
But you didn't ask to touch my hair.
Right.
And if you did, I would tell you no.
Right.
Because I'm not a science experiment.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I just had that conversation with some friends of mine, and they said people wanted to come up and touch their hair, didn't believe it was real. But also, it was systematic racism into them not getting corporate jobs as well. So that's the other aspect. So you have a son that's in public school system, and he has the same type of hair.
He
so
does.
tell
He's locked.
how's that working out for him? And has any teacher called to complain or anybody said anything that they probably shouldn't have?
No. The only people that get on his nerves about his hair is his dad and his uncle, and because they are straight, even cut, just no frills, no fun haircuts. So they're probably the ones that talk about his hair the most. Honestly, he started growing his locks back in, I think he was in the 8th grade.
Okay.
He decided he wanted to lock, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go on the lock journey with you. So we both locked at the same time. We went through our lock journey together, and he really hasn't had any issues with it. But again, my son goes to Shawnee, so you're going to see a lot of kids walking around in there with locks. So he's amongst he's amongst his peers. He doesn't look different from anybody else, so he doesn't have that same problem. Whereas I've seen a lot of other schools where the Crown Act, I believe, had to come into play for some of the kids in JCPS because that's a distraction. Actually, I take that back. When I was in elementary or middle school, I think my mom had finger waved my hair up. That was the style back then.
That
so
was
she
the style.
finger waved my hair. It was up and it had a bun, and they told my mother my hair was a distraction.
Wow.
It was not a distraction to anyone except people who are not used to seeing it. So I want you to take that however you want.
They wanted you to assimilate to white society, what they believe a person's culture should be.
Right.
Right. So having a black male in JCPS, in the school system, how is he treated? How's he treated by the teachers? Because that's where I'm headed to.
So middle school was probably the roughest, the first 2 years of middle school. So his 6th and 7th grade were probably the roughest 2 years for how teachers perceived him. I'd get phone calls. Oh, Xavier is, he's being disrespectful. And I'm like, okay, well, what did he do? What happened? Explain to me what he did. Oh, he's just looking at us really, he's really angry. Okay, what did he say? He didn't say anything. We're talking to him and he's not responding. Okay, what was the situation that led to him not responding? Well, there were some other children in the classroom that were doing this, that, and the third, and Xavier was laughing at them, and laughing at the situation, and we wanted him to, calm down. Or, okay, well, all right.
Explain that.
Explain to me why he's in trouble, or why you think he's angry. He's more than likely just confused as to why you're singling him out for laughing. He's a child. Children are impulsive. They don't have, their frontal cortex isn't fully developed yet. Their prefrontal cortex, I don't know what else you want me to say, but kids handle things in a different way.
Right.
He's probably not used to an adult being that close to him and yelling or talking to him with a certain tone of voice. I try not to yell at my kids. So if you yelled at them, that's probably an issue right there.
Right.
So I don't think teachers, again, it may be because he was a young black male that they assumed that he was being angry. I don't really know, but I know that those were some of the calls that we would get, or it was mostly those kinds of calls where they're just taking how he reacts to certain things out of context.
So the calls I used to receive, and I raised my sons, and I never received a call from any black teachers, but it was always somebody bringing their biases to the classroom on what my son should do or should act like. And so a couple of times I had to go up to the school just to address the teacher.
Right.
Because I said my kids are very intelligent, and they can speak for themselves, but you're not going to demoralize them in any way. And I remember one time my son came home. It was something strange with his arm. And DCF showed up at my house.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, why are you at my house? They said, well, a teacher called and said you abused your son, right? And I said, well, that's a mark on his arm. It looks like it's some type of infection. What do me beating him has to do with that? So anyway, I take my son to the doctor because I recognized it was a bite. And it was a brown recluse.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
So I had dealt with that working at the health department before. And so I ended up writing a long letter to the principal and that teacher. And I said, first of all, you should have probably looked me up and you would have known what I do for a living. And I go talk to kids, and just because I'm a father raising my kid, don't mean I'm going to automatically abuse my kid. Maybe need to ask the question first. Or do some more investigation. And I showed him what he had, and then it was like, I bad. But I had instances like that where I had to constantly go up to the school because they were being treated different.
I will say that there was a situation with my youngest son. He was in elementary, maybe second or third grade. So my youngest son was early identified as gifted and talented. He was on a 5th or 6th grade reading level when he was in the 1st grade. So he's very good with words. This may have been 2 years ago, actually. I can't exactly. No, it was a little longer than that. It was before COVID hit, so maybe 2018, 2019. And I got a phone call. Xavier called me a racist. What? What did he do? Well, come to find out, the teacher was separating the boys from the girls every time they went to the restroom, every time they went to the water fountain, every time they went to the lunchroom, and she would let the girls go first. So my son had enough, apparently, and he was like, you're being a gender racist. Because he didn't know the term sexist. So she called me and was like, oh, he called me a racist, and you really need to talk about that because somebody could really get mad and want to, well, wait a minute, let's back up. Why didn't you use this as a teachable moment? Because that's what I would have done. And I would have said, you're not a gender racist. You're talking about sexist. Like, this was a teachable moment for everybody. Why are you calling me? You're the teacher. So after I had this long discussion with this lady and let her know that he was not, I don't know how you didn't figure out that he was trying to call you a sexist, because it was right there. You was splitting the girls up from the boys and letting the girls go first for everything. But I did have to have a long conversation with her and let her know he's very outspoken. He's very good with words. I know he's young, but he knew exactly what he was trying to say. He communicated it perfectly for his age. I'm not going to tell him to stop calling out differences when he sees them. I'm not going to do that. He's not raised that way. He's raised to do exactly what he just did and let you know, like, hey, this is inappropriate. Like, what are you doing? Why do you continue to let them go and not let us go? So I did have to have that conversation with her, and I did let her know, like, this was a teachable moment, you know, and I'll correct my child and let him know that the term he needs to use next time is a sexist. You're being sexist.
And you educated her. Did she respond and make change?
She never called me again about my son. Because she was like, that's no help.
There you go.
No, don't call his mama. And my kids are very aware of if there's something at school going on with you and a teacher and it seems too big for you, or you're at the point where you're so mad that you're about to say something that you have no business saying as a child, you need to call your mama. Because I don't mind coming up there and...
At Park DuValle, we offer a variety of services for behavioral health needs, such as therapy, medication management, case management, and we also have community health workers. Here at Park DuValle Community Health Center, in our behavioral health department, we provide you with the tools to help improve your life and your mental health. If you or someone you know is experiencing thoughts of suicide, please don't hesitate to give the Suicide Prevention Hotline a call. This could save your life or someone else's life.
You know, that leads me to my last question. You know, as a mom, and I know as a father, and a lot of people don't see a lot of fathers around, even though we are present in our kids' lives.
Definitely.
In today's society, do you have fear for your sons?
Every day. Every day I have fear for my sons. Specifically my oldest son. My youngest son, he's very reserved. He's quiet, even though I still have, that doesn't stop him from being the target. But my oldest son, people look at my 16-year-old and they think he is, much older than what he is. He's about 6 foot, about 170 pounds, all muscle, just hit the 1,000 pound club in the weight room. So he's very strong. He does look older than what he is. So he's
pretty big. I've seen pictures.
People don't look at him and they automatically say, oh my gosh, that's a man. And I'm like, no, that's still my baby. That's a child. That's still a child. I don't care what he looks like. That's a child. Yes, he has his little chin hairs growing in. His little mustache is coming. It's about to start connecting. That's a baby. That's my baby. So I have fears every day. He went with his friends the other day and went to play basketball, and I have my kids on Life 360 so I can see where they are 24/7, and I'm like constantly watching. I'm like, okay, he's still where he says he is, or like knowing the appropriate time to call and be like, okay, are you good? Like I want to call every 5 minutes when he's not in my sight or in his dad's sight or with my mom. I want to call every are you okay? When he went to PRP, there was guns in the building, like all the time. And every time I'd be like, I'm about to come and get you. He'd be like, nah, Mom, I'm good. It's not around me. Like he was in honors classes. So typically those things happened. He was not in the area because those children were not in his classes. So he was separated from a lot of his friend group because he was in honors and AP classes at PRP. But he ultimately decided he didn't want to be at PRP. So I try to let them make their own decisions. Specifically, he wanted to go to PRP. I let him go to PRP. When he said he had enough, he couldn't concentrate, he was uncomfortable in the building, I listened. When he said he wanted to go to Shawnee, regardless of what the reputation was for my alma mater, I listened. I sent him to Shawnee because that's where he felt comfortable. And so far, 7 A's and a B is what he brought back on his report card. So listening and making sure that I'm equipping them with the tools to make the best decisions, because I know I can't be there to make all their decisions for them. It's hard. Like, I want to make that decision. Like, I want to be there and do that thing. Like, okay, let me protect, but I can't.
You can't protect it. And I'm an overprotective, overbearing dad.
You're a helicopter parent?
I'm probably a jet. Because I just swoop in and be like, I want to saw this. And I think I never want that call. First of all, it's a shame that I have to worry about the crime in my community, but then I got to worry about the crime in school, and then I got to worry about how the community and people perceive my son versus my daughter, and in most cases there's not much I could do. But if I want to change one thing in society, it would be to change the demonizing of our African American men and our boys growing up, and how they treated in the school system, how they treated by the greater society. Because if we don't change that aspect, then we won't see us in higher education. We won't see us having jobs in the community. We won't see the contributions that we can make to society. So, you know, I will say that's my last point, and I'm with you, and I support your sons and be around as much as I need to be. And thank you for everybody tuning in to the show. Hopefully this was a great conversation for you today. Have a great weekend.